Imagine lighting a $100 bill on fire. Now do it again and again. Don't stop. In fact, keep going every single second, because that's essentially what's happening right now in the skies over Iran. And the terrifying part? The bill isn't $100, it's $12 million per missile, per shot, against a drone that costs $2,000 to build. Welcome to the most expensive asymmetric war in modern history. And whether you live in New York, London, or anywhere else on this planet, you are already paying for it. On February 28, 2026 at 9:45 in the morning Tehran time, the United States launched what it called Operation Epic Fury, the most massive American military campaign in the Middle East since the invasion of Iraq in 2003. In coordination with Israel's parallel operation, dubbed Operation Roaring Lion, American forces struck over 1,000 targets inside Iran in just the first 24 hours. Nuclear facilities, missile production sites, naval assets, and in one of the most dramatic moments of the entire operation, the compound of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, was destroyed. Khamenei himself was killed. President Trump announced the strikes not through a formal address to Congress, but through an 8-minute video posted on Truth Social at 2 in the morning. "We are going to destroy their missiles," he said, "and raise their missile industry to the ground." Bold words. But here's the question nobody in Washington wants to answer honestly. At what cost? Let's start with the numbers, because the numbers in this war are almost incomprehensible. According to reports from Anadolu News Agency, the United States spent approximately $779 million in just the first 24 hours of direct operations. That's not the full picture either. The pre-strike military buildup, which involved repositioning aircraft carriers, deploying over a dozen naval vessels, and mobilizing regional assets across the Middle East, cost an estimated additional $630 million. So, before a single missile even launched, America had already burned through more than $500 million just getting ready to fight. And the burn rate doesn't stop there. According to the Center for New American Security, it costs approximately $6.5 million per day just to keep a single carrier strike group operational. America currently has 2 of those in the region, the USS Gerald R. Ford and the USS Abraham Lincoln. That's $13 million a day before a single weapon is fired, before a single gallon of jet fuel is consumed, before a single pilot even climbs into the cockpit. Now, here's where it gets truly jaw-dropping, and this is the part that defense analysts are calling America's most dangerous vulnerability in this entire conflict. Iran has a drone. You've probably seen footage of it. It looks almost primitive. It's called the Shahed drone. It costs somewhere between $20,000 and $50,000 to manufacture. Some versions cost even less. It's slow, it's not stealthy. By the standards of modern warfare, it is unsophisticated. And yet, to shoot one of these drones out of the sky, the United States is firing missiles that cost between $3 million and $15 million each. Let that ratio sink in for a moment. Iran spends $20,000. America spends $15 million. That's a cost ratio of 750 to 1. Iran fires a drone worth less than a luxury car. America responds with a missile worth more than most people's entire lifetime earnings. Now, imagine Iran doesn't send 1 drone. Imagine it sends 1,000. In the first 4 days of this conflict alone, Iran launched over 2,000 attack drones and more than 500 ballistic missiles against Israel, against the UAE, against Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar, against U.S. military bases across the Gulf. That is not a mistake. That is not desperation. That is a calculated, deliberate strategy, and it has a name. Defense economists call it economic exhaustion, and Iran has been preparing for it for years. Think of it like this. Iran is playing chess, but instead of trying to capture America's king directly, it's systematically taking out America's most expensive pieces, forcing America to burn through its rooks, its bishops, its queen, all to defend against pawns.
cheap pawns, expendable pawns, pawns that cost almost nothing to replace. When Iran sends swarms of drones, America cannot simply ignore them. Even a low-cost drone, if it hits the right target, a fuel depot, a radar installation, an airfield, can cause catastrophic damage. So America is forced to respond with its most advanced, most expensive interceptor systems, the THAAD, the Patriot, systems whose interceptor missiles range from $3 million to $15 million per shot. And Iran knows this. Iran planned for this. According to Brown University's 2025 Costs of War report, since October 7, 2023, the United States has already provided Israel with $21.7 billion in military aid. When you add the cost of direct American military operations in Yemen, around Iran, and across the broader Middle East, total U.S. spending connected to this conflict now stands between $31 billion and $34 billion, and it is climbing every single day. But the truly alarming figure comes from Kent Smetters, the director of the Penn-Wharton budget model, one of Washington's most respected fiscal analysts. When Fortune magazine asked him to estimate the total economic cost of Operation Epic Fury to American taxpayers, his answer ranged from $40 billion on the low end to a staggering $210 billion at the high end. And those numbers, he cautioned, assume the war doesn't stretch beyond 2 months. Trump himself said on Monday that the operation could last 4 to 5 weeks, and he didn't rule out ground forces. Now, some people in Washington say this is sustainable. America has a nearly $1 trillion defense budget, and there are proposals to push that toward $1.5 trillion. In raw dollar terms, yes, America can keep writing the checks. But sustainability isn't just about money, it's about something far more finite: inventory. Here's a fact that should alarm every American strategist. The high-tech missiles that the United States fires, the Tomahawks, the THAAD interceptors, the Patriot PAC-3s, these are not manufactured quickly. Each one requires rare materials, precision engineering, and months or years of production lead time. Defense analysts estimate that during recent operations, America may have already burned through somewhere between 15 and 25% of its available missile stockpile. And replenishing that stockpile, that could take years. Think of it like a power bank that you're draining at full speed but can only recharge at a trickle. Every interceptor fired tonight is a missile that won't be available tomorrow or next year if China moves on Taiwan, or Russia escalates in Europe, or North Korea decides this is its moment. And it gets even more personal than missiles. Consider the pilots. The United States deployed F-22 Raptors, F-35C Lightning IIs, and F-15E Strike Eagles to this theater. Each one of these aircraft represents not just hundreds of millions of dollars in hardware, but decades of training, institutional knowledge, and human expertise. Training a single F-35 pilot costs the U.S. military approximately $10 million and takes years of preparation. 3 American fighter jets were already shot down in what officials described as a friendly fire incident over Kuwait. 3 jets gone. And with them, not just metal and circuitry, but years of irreplaceable experience. This is not a small detail. Machines can be rebuilt eventually, but the kind of seasoned, combat-experienced aviators that America produces over decades, those cannot simply be ordered from a factory. So why is America here? How did the world's most powerful military find itself in a position where it is spending $15 million to shoot down a $20,000 drone, draining its missile stockpiles at an unsustainable pace and burning through billions of dollars while the clock ticks? The answer lies in a decision made weeks ago, and the logic, or the lack of it, behind that decision. The Trump administration stated that Iran had restarted its nuclear program and was developing long-range missiles capable of threatening American allies and potentially reaching the American homeland. The official justification for Operation Epic Fury was preventing Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. And on the surface, that sounds straightforward. Nuclear proliferation is a legitimate global concern. Iran enriching uranium to weapons-grade levels is genuinely dangerous.
But here's the problem.
Just one day before the strikes began, on February 27th, Oman's foreign minister announced that a breakthrough had been reached. Iran had reportedly agreed to never stockpile enriched uranium and to full verification by the International Atomic Energy Agency. A diplomatic resolution appeared to be within reach. Then, 24 hours later, the bombs started falling. American intelligence reports, according to multiple sources, suggested that the threat of Iranian long-range ballistic missiles reaching the United States was not imminent. A Pentagon source told members of Congress in closed-door briefings that there was no intelligence suggesting Iran was planning to attack U.S. forces first, and yet the operation launched anyway. That context matters. Not to excuse Iranian behavior, which has been genuinely aggressive and destabilizing for decades, but to understand whether the price America and the world is now paying was truly unavoidable or whether it was a choice. Because the world is not just watching missiles fly, the world is watching oil prices. Every time the Middle East trembles, the global oil market shakes with it. 150 freight ships, including dozens of oil tankers, are currently stalled behind the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most critical choke points in the global energy supply. Danish shipping giant Maersk has already announced it is rerouting vessels around the Cape of Good Hope, adding weeks and thousands of miles to delivery routes. That means higher shipping costs. Higher shipping costs mean higher prices for goods. Higher prices for goods mean inflation. And inflation reaches every kitchen, every gas station, and every grocery store, in America, in Europe, and yes, in every country that depends on global trade. This is how a war in the Persian Gulf becomes a tax on working families in Chicago, in London, in Delhi, in Karachi. You don't have to fire a weapon to feel the cost of this war. You'll feel it the next time you fill up your car. So, where does this end? Trump has said the operation will last 4 to 5 weeks, but military campaigns rarely respect political timelines. Iran, even after losing Khamenei, even after taking devastating blows to its nuclear infrastructure and naval forces, has not collapsed. Its Revolutionary Guard had contingency plans. Its drone and missile reserves, while depleted, are not gone. And its allies, the Houthis in Yemen, Hezbollah in Lebanon, various proxies across Iraq and Syria, remain active, armed, and motivated. The Houthis, who had suspended their Red Sea attacks since November 2025 after a Gaza peace proposal, have now restarted their drone and missile campaigns against commercial vessels. Hezbollah is back in the fight. Kurdish forces inside Iran are reportedly mobilizing. The conflict, which began as a targeted operation against nuclear facilities, has morphed into a regional war with no clear off-ramp. America went in with a plan to destroy Iran's missile capabilities in weeks. Iran's plan is simpler and far cheaper. Keep fighting, keep sending drones, keep launching missiles. Make every hour of this war cost America more than it costs Iran. Force the most expensive military machine in human history to exhaust itself chasing targets that cost less than a used car. The elephant is powerful, no one disputes that. But Iran is the mouse that has decided it doesn't need to beat the elephant. It just needs to make the elephant run and run and run until the elephant collapses under the weight of its own strength. That is the real war being fought right now. Not just in the skies over Tehran, but in the spreadsheets at the Pentagon, in the bond markets in New York, in the supply chains crossing the Indian Ocean, in the fuel prices at gas stations from Los Angeles to London. The question for America and for the world is not whether the United States can win this war militarily. It almost certainly can inflict catastrophic damage on Iran. The question is whether in doing so, it is also inflicting catastrophic damage on itself. Whether the cost of dominance, measured not just in dollars but in depleted stockpiles, in strained alliances, in rising inflation, and in the long-term erosion of American strategic credibility, is a price that will haunt the next generation of Americans long after the smoke clears. Wars are easy to start. They are much harder and much more expensive to finish.
And when the bill finally comes due, it is never paid by the generals or the politicians who ordered the first strike. It is paid by the people, all of them, everywhere.